Then you follow that jam up with yet another bizarre fallacy. Roll it.
I have never met anyone that was able to watch this film without fast forwarding through most of it.
So what, Matthew? What you're doing here is known as argument ad populum, and it is not an argument. The amount of people who agree on a particular premise has no bearing in and of itself on the reality of that premise. I have never met anyone or heard anyone in my entire life that didn't love Back to the Future Part 2. Except, of course, for you, Matthew. There, have I just shattered your worldview when it comes to that movie? I didn't think so. Oh, and by the way, it sounds to me like this taboo of yours against criticizing 2001 hasn't had much effect on everyone you've ever met. The only method by which we can accurately determine an artwork's quality beyond the subjective individual experience of that artwork is discussing its effect on the art form itself and the culture as a whole. Doing this negates your premise completely, which is why you tried to make it off limits in the first place. That's not going to happen here. You knew the second that historical, cultural, and artistic perspective was brought into the discussion, you'd look like a fool. And you have the audacity to claim that those of us who love this film are the ones utilizing conversation stoppers in order to prevent people from criticizing the film. Then you immediately attempt to ban part of the conversation in order to prevent people from criticizing you. Actively attempting to censor a conversation that you initiate in order to make your perspective in that conversation appear more credible is creepy at best and evil at worst, Matthew. Come on. And as if that wasn't bad enough, you then attempt to reject the mere notion that this film might actually be beyond you, completely oblivious to the implications of the opposite and more likely scenario that thinking that 90% of the movie is dispensable and the other 10% doesn't matter, which, by the way, Matthew, mean the same thing, is positive proof that you don't get it. And that just like a child who doesn't understand something, you reflexively throw a fit and mock those who do understand around you. I gotta say, Matthew, this is not going well for you. Can you smell the irony here? So far you have said literally nothing in terms of actual criticism about 2001 or Kubrick. Fallacious arguments are not arguments. They act only to invalidate the very point of view that you are trying so desperately to rationalize. My original hope that you were going to bring a fresh critical perspective to the debate is already DOA, and you haven't even begun to review the goddamn movie yet. So here we are, finally, at the beginning of the film, after a whole lot of nonsense. And right off the bat, you completely ignore or miss entirely the opening monolith theme music played over black screen before the film starts. You don't even bother to mock this moment of prologue in 2001, which is your MO, which makes me wonder if you did not even bother to watch the original cut of the film. You then proceed to play the opening sequence of the film, The Dawn of Man, while whining incessantly about how it's nothing but shots of landscape. No attempt at any kind of understanding or analysis of why Kubrick would use so many slow establishing shots of desolate landscapes. No contemplation about the implications of so many open horizons and skies completely devoid of buildings and airplanes and cars and roads. No remarking on the deliberate absence of musical score during this sequence, especially considering that there was music played before this sequence. No, Kubrick couldn't possibly be trying to set a tone of isolation that would correlate directly to the isolation of outer space that happens later in the film, and there's no way that he's setting the pace of the tracking shots to be identical to the tracking shots during the Jupiter sequence in order to establish a cyclical theme in the subconscious of the viewer. No, it couldn't have anything to do with that. Stanley Kubrick just wanted to bore you for his own amusement. You then complain about how there isn't a main character yet. The protagonist is mankind itself, by the way, but apparently that concept is far too abstract for you to grasp. And then you glaze over the single most important sequence of the entire film, the sequence that must be comprehended in order to begin to understand all else in the film, which is why it is at the beginning of the film. And you do it with one sentence.
We then get to a scene of a bunch of monkeys dicking around doing nothing, then a monolith suddenly appears out of nowhere, and the monkeys start attacking each other with weapons. But does the movie start after that? Oh no!
Your inability to watch a movie is chilling, Matthew. The movie has begun, and it is going on right now in front of you, but you're missing it in order to write the line "monkeys dicking around" in your fucking notebook under the heading of "I'm so clever." Perhaps you should worry less about trying to be clever and more about why you can't see what's going on in this scene. The dismal realities of primitive man's life before technology are being established. Then the monolith appears and it influences the evolutionary process by granting consciousness. Because of this, the ape men gain the ability to use technology in the form of a weapon so that now they can hunt for better food. But this also results in the weapons being an advantage in tribal conflicts. What are the implications of this? Incredibly important themes are being laid as a groundwork here, not nothing.
I know a lot of you, especially the Kubrick fans, are getting very frustrated with me right now. Probably because you're under the impression that I'm not being fair. I don't even have the music on, and that's supposed to add to whatever kind of atmosphere this scene has.
Okay, now you're just trying to be a jerk on purpose, aren't you? You are a film critic, for God's sakes, or at least you're pretending to be. There is absolutely no excuse for you to not know that music is a vital part of any and all great filmmaking. How dare you be so glib about what should be shorthand common knowledge for you? Music is, when used correctly, the backbone of a movie, as it was established to be in the silent film origins of cinema itself. And you should know this. It is also well known that Kubrick wanted 2001 to be understood on the level of music, as he would say. A space opera. Removing music from an opera cripples any hope of grasping the emotions and concepts the opera is trying to convey. You comment loudly that,
if I wanted to listen to goddamn music, I'd listen to goddamn music.
You listen to music every single time you watch a movie, Matthew. I assume you said this because you thought it was clever. It's not. It's childish. You seem to have no understanding of the craft, no knowledge or appreciation of subtlety, nuance, the use of metaphor and symbolism, and the use of music. All you seem to understand is how to fulfill the textbook definition of the word obnoxious. This is the very first time that I've ever encountered a movie review by a film critic, amateur or otherwise, that contains almost none of either critique or review. Here yet again, you are obviously making no attempt at any sort of critical analysis or asking any of the obvious questions. Why has musical score been introduced at this point in the film? Clearly the rhythm of the music syncs with the rotation and the motion of the objects in zero gravity and of the Earth, as well as the pace of the stewardess's movements. What is Kubrick indicating by this contrast with the bleak, scoreless, and rhythmless opening scenes? Why is there only one passenger on a flight to a space station? What does this say about the importance of this passenger and his reasons for going to the space station? Why is he casually asleep rather than thrilled to be in space? What does this say about how far advanced man has become from the opening scenes? Never mind that to this day, this sequence, as well as the rest of the film, contains a singular achievement and revolution in in-camera special effects unsurpassed until the invention of CGI decades later. Never mind that this sequence was created before almost anyone on the planet knew what space was like and what Earth looked like from it. Never mind that this was the first time space had been portrayed as having zero gravity in a film. Never mind acknowledging the clear and awe-inspiring implications of what the monolith truly did to our evolution so that it might result in a man being able to take a nap while flying in a spaceship to the moon rather than having to bludgeon an animal to death in order to survive its daily excursions from its fucking cave. Never mind all of that. Matthew's bored. You are not on to something here, Matthew. You are not in possession of the truth, as you claim several times. You are not defeating social taboos. What you are is out of your league.